Fernand's theorem states that if P is prime, if P is prime and A is any integer, A is any integer, then prove that A to the power P is congruent to A mod P is A mod P. Say it is given that P is a prime number and A is any integer. Then we wanted to prove that A to the power P is congruent to what it is A into mod P. So what is A here? A is any integer and P is a prime number. So what may be the possibilities here between A and P? There are two possibilities. One is the greatest common divisor between A and P may be equal to 1 possibility, and another possibility is the greatest common divisor between A and P may not be equal to 1. I mean, I wanted to say here A and P either they are relatively prime or may not be relatively prime. That's all. So there arises two cases here. In the proof itself we write there arises two cases. Under that case one is this. Case one is the A is relatively prime to P. If A is relatively prime to P, it is relatively prime to P. That is the greatest common divisor between A and P is equal to 1. Then if A is relatively prime to P, then by Euler's theorem we have, yes, what we have here? Come on, tell me. Just now we have proved Euler's theorem. A is relatively prime to P. Instead of n, we have A here. It is A to the power 5P is congruent to 1 mod P. 1 mod P it is. 1 mod P. Okay. Since 5P means Euler's phi function is equal to P minus 1, because since P is prime, as P is prime, definitely the Euler's phi function of P is equal to P minus 1. So the above result may be written as therefore A to the power 5P may be written as P minus 1, because 5P is equal to P minus 1 here, is congruent to 1 mod P. 1 mod P here. 1 mod P. Instead of 5P I have taken P minus 1. So now you do one thing. Multiply by A on both the sides. This implies that A into A to the power P minus 1 is congruent to 1 into A or A into 1. 1 into A or A into 1 mod P. This I have obtained just by multiplying by A on both the sides. Yes, A into A to the power P minus 1 means it is A to the power P is congruent to what? Is congruent to 1 into A is A mod P. This is what we wanted to prove here. A to the power P is congruent to A mod P. This is what we wanted to prove. Very simple. And here, if A is any integer and P is a prime number, there arises two cases. One is either A and P are relatively prime or they may not be prime. If A and B are relatively prime, then A to the power 5p by Euler's theorem is congruent to 1 mod P. But 5p is equal to p minus 1 since p is prime number. So instead of 5p, write p minus 1 here. Multiply by a to the power p is congruent to a mod p we get. Next, let's go to case 2 here. Case 2, where a is not relatively prime to b. If a is not relatively prime to b, relatively prime to p, that is the greatest common divisor between a and b is not equal to 1 and p is a prime and p is prime. P is prime here. Yes, A and P are they are not relatively prime. I mean the greatest common divisor between A and P is not equal to 1 and P is prime. Implies what? Yes, anybody? P divides A. This implies that P divides A. P divides A may be written as A is congruent to 0 mod P here. A is congruent to 0 mod P. Or taking raising the power to P on both the sides. A to the power P is congruent to 0 to the power P is 0 here. 0 here. Mod P. 0 mod P here. This result, you better call it as result number 1. Next, since P divides A, since we have this result, P divides A, this implies that P also divides minus A. Because if I say 5 divides, or you can say 5 divides 25, then definitely it implies that 5 divides minus 25. Likewise, if P divides A, implies that P divides minus A. Then, writing this in the congruence relation, minus A is congruent to what it is? Minus A is congruent to what it is? 0 mod P. 0 mod P. Yes, this can be written as 0 is congruent to A mod P test. 0 is congruent to A mod P. Of this result as result number 2. See, one result is A to the power P is congruent to 0 mod P. And second one is 0 is congruent to A mod P. From 1 and 2 and by transitive property what happens? Come on, tell me. From 1 and 2 and by transitive property, yes, what do you say? Transitive property. If A is a friend of B, B is a friend of C, then A is a friend of C. Yes, like that. What it said? A to the power P is congruent to 0 and 0 is congruent to A mod. This implies that A to the power P is congruent to A mod P. This is what we wanted to do. This is the Fermat's theorem. Okay. With this, let's now go for the theorem in the next month. Corollary number 5. If G is a finite group, if G is a finite group of order n, then for all A belonging to Z, then for all A belonging to Z, prove that A to the power n is equal to E here. Okay. Proof of this. Say, it is given that G is a finite group of order n, means order of G is equal to n. Then for all element A belonging to G, I wanted to prove that A to the power n is equal to E here. For this, in order to prove this, let us assume that order of A is equal to m here. Order of an element A is equal to m. By definition of order of an element, this implies that A to the power m is equal to E. Call this result as result number 1. And by corollary 1, what we have, order of A divides order of G. Order of A divides order of G. This implies that order of A is m divides order of G. Order of G is n because G is a finite group of order n given it is. Order of G is equal to n given it is. Therefore, m divides n. By definition of divisibility, m divides n means what it implies? N is equal to m cube. If I say A divides B, implies that there exists an integer k such that B is equal to k. By this definition, if I say m divides n, this is of the type A divides B, means n is equal to, there exists an integer q such that n is equal to m q here. N is equal to m q. Now consider A to the power n. This is equal to A to the power n is equal to m q here. It is m q. A to the power m q can be written as A to the power m whole to the power q. This is equal to, what is A to the power m here? By result number 1, it is the power q. This is from result number 1. E to the power q is equal to what? E. That is A to the power n is equal to E. This is what we wanted to prove. Yes, with this, let's go to corollary 6 here. Corollary 6. A finite group of prime order. A finite group of prime order is a cyclic and hence abelian and hence abelian. Yes. Before going to the proof of this, let me just see what is a cyclic group. Yes, anybody? So far and yourself, you are not following. Yes, what is the definition of a cyclic group? Cyclic subgroup. Suppose if any group is generated by a single element, any subgroup, if it is generated by a single element, means if you are able to write every element as an integral power of some element A belonging to G, then we call it as a cyclic subgroup. And let us say here, H is a cyclic subgroup of G, and we have to remember one thing: every cyclic group is an abelian group. Every cyclic group is an abelian group. That we have proved earlier while discussing about cyclic groups. Okay, first we shall prove that a finite group of prime order is cyclic, and automatically it will be abelian. Okay. So for that, let me take one group, finite group. Let G be a finite group, which is cyclic and having a prime number of elements. I mean, the order of G is equal to P, P being a prime number. P being a prime number. Yes, let us take here, let G be a group. Let G be a finite group. Let G be a finite group of prime order. Of prime order means what it implies, the order of the group is P, where P be a prime number. Let order of G is equal to P, P being prime. P being prime, P being prime, and let A be an element, of course, which is not equal to E here. A not equal to E be any element of G, and consider a subgroup, and consider a subgroup H as consider a cyclic subgroup, right? Consider a cyclic subgroup H generated by A. H generated by A it is. That is, H is a cyclic group generated by A is written in this fashion. Is written in this fashion. You see, I would like to give one example for a cyclic group. Every element should be written as an integral power of a single element. For example, you take here H is a set of all elements of fourth roots of unity. What are the fourth roots of unity? 1 minus 1, I minus I. Okay. I would like to say this H is a cyclic subgroup generated by I here. Generated by I. Because, say, 1 can be written as I to the power 4. Am I right? I squared into I squared. I squared into I squared, which is equal to minus 1 into minus 1, which is equal to plus 1. Am I right? And minus 1 may be written as I squared. Then I may be written as I to the power 1. Then minus I may be written as I cube. Right? Like that, every element of H is written as an integral power of I. Therefore, we say H is a cyclic group generated by I. Suppose if A is a generator of cyclic group, then we have proved one more theorem. its inverse minus A is also the cyclic group. Similarly, you can show that minus I is the generator of H. And you must note one more point. Every cyclic group is abelian. Every cyclic subgroup is abelian. Okay, now what I did here, I have taken G a finite group of prime order. That is order of G is equal to P, where P is a prime number. And one element A belonging to G I have taken, and consider a cyclic group H generated by H. Yes. Now, then by Lagrange's theorem, what we have? G is a finite group. G. Yes, correct. Come on. Lagrange's theorem, we have order of H divides order of G. Order of H divides order of G. Okay. What is your order of H here? Write it as it is. Order of H, write it as it is. And what is the order of G here? It is P, where P is a prime number. Yes. Since P is prime number, when do you say that P is prime number? If and only if it has only divisors, no other divisors other than 1 and P itself. Another 1 and P itself. So since P is prime, it has no divisors. It has no divisors other than 1 and P. Other than 1 and P. 1 and P here. That is order of H. Therefore, order of H divides of P means order of H is either 1 or order of H is equal to P. Order of H is equal to P. But I am telling order of H is not equal to 1. Why? Order of H is not equal to 1. Order of H is not equal to 1. There are two possibilities here. Order of H is equal to 1 or order of H is equal to P. But I will tell you here, order of H is not equal to 1. Order means it is the number of elements. See, here A belonging to G I have taken, and H is a cyclic group generated by A. The cyclic group means it should contain an identity element. So, definitely H contains two elements, at least two elements. One is A and another one is E. Therefore, its order cannot be equal to 1. Its order cannot be equal to 1. Therefore, if this is not possible, then order of H must be equal to. Then order of H is equal to what? Is equal to P. Order of H is equal to P. But now order of H is equal to P. And the order of G is also equal to P. Order of H is equal to P. Thus, what you have seen here, order of H is equal to order of G. Each is equal to P here. If they have both of them have the same order, then you can say that those groups are equal. That is H is equal to G here. H is equal to G. And here we have taken what is H? H is a cyclic subgroup generated by A here. So if the left hand side H is a cyclic subgroup generated by A, definitely G is a cyclic group generated by A. Okay, that you have to write here. Since H is cyclic, G is also cyclic. Since H is cyclic, H is cyclic implies that G is also cyclic. G is also cyclic, and hence abelian. Because we have this theorem, since every cyclic group is abelian, therefore if G is abelian and G is cyclic, then definitely it is abelian, and hence the proof. Yes, with this let's go to corollary number 7. Corollary number 7. A finite group of prime order has no subgroups, proper subgroups, Okay. Yes. Before going to the proof, let us try to know what are proper subgroups and what are improper subgroups. Yes. What are improper subgroups? Which are improper subgroups of any group? See, the group consisting of the identity element H is equal to singleton E and H is equal to the group itself. These two are called improper subgroups. Other than these two subgroups, all other subgroups are proper subgroups. Okay. The subgroup consisting of only singleton element, which is an identity element, and the subgroup which consists of all the elements of G, these are called improper subgroups. ಇವುಗಳನ್ನು ಹೊರತುಪಡಿಸಿದರೆ ಉಳಿದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವೆಲ್ಲವನ್ನೂ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ subgroups. Okay. So now here I wanted to prove that a finite group of prime order has no proper subgroups. So for that, let us take here one group G. It is a finite subgroup of prime order. Let G be a finite group of prime order means the order of this group is a prime number, and therefore order of G is equal to P, where P being the prime number, Let H be any subgroup of G. Let H be any subgroup of G. Then by Lagrange's theorem, we have, yes, what we have? See here, G is a finite group and H is a subgroup of G. Then by Lagrange's theorem, we have what we have? Order of H divides order of G. This implies that order of H divides what is order of G? It is P. But P is a prime number. Since P is prime, It has no divisors other than 1 and p. It has no divisors other than 1 and p. Other than 1 and p itself. Other than 1 and p. This implies that, as we discussed in our previous corollary, order of h is either 1 or order of h is equal to p here. Order of h is equal to p, which is nothing but order of g here. Order of g. This implies that order of h is equal to 1 means h consists of only one element, it is singleton E, and order of h is equal to p, which is nothing but order of h means h is equal to g here. Both of them are proper subgroups, both which are improper subgroups, which are improper subgroups of G disk. Therefore, you can say hence G has no proper subgroups. G has no proper subgroups. Say using the converse of this. Suppose if A is a finite group of composite order, then it has a proper subgroups. That I wanted to take it as corollary 8. Yes, corollary 8 states that every finite group of composite order, every finite group of composite order has proper subgroups. Yes, as a converse of this theorem, you please do that as a homework. Okay, thank you. Tomorrow let us take up some more other consequences, means other corollaries tomorrow. Okay, thank you.